Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Muhammad Yusri Avandi. I'm an English language and literature student. Now, I would like to explain my research proposal titled Euphemism Analysis in Modern Stories Collection devised by Robert J. Dixson, a descriptive analysis. First, background of the problem. Language is a system of verbal symbol used by humans to express those emotions and maintain social relationships. According to Fromkin, Trotman, and Hiams, 2011, language is a unique cognitive skill that only humans possess. Chomsky, 2006, also states that language enables humans to produce unlimited sentences even unconsciously. Linguistics, as the study of language, has an important branch called pragmatics, which examines how language is used in social contexts. Pragmatics focus on meaning influenced by speakers' intentions, social norms, and communication situation. Cutting 2022. Austin and Charles' Speak Act theory explain that speaking also means performing actions, such as ordering or promising. In communication, there are taboo topics often avoided, such as death, sexuality, or illness. Allen and Burridge, 1991, define taboo as a social prohibition that may cause negative consequences if spoken directly. To maintain harmony, speakers often use euphemism to convey sensitive issues more politely and acceptably. In order to communicate certain sensitive topic, euphemism comes as solution to soften the utterance. Previous studies on euphemism have focused on media, novels, dramas, or films. However, research on educational texts remains limited, including modern short stories in English by Dixson 1971. This study aims to describe the types and function of euphemism using Allen and Burridge theories, contributing to language learning. Identification of research problem. First, euphemism in literary text is not only used to replace harsh words, but it also has a special function depending on the social situation in the story. Second, the meaning of euphemism in short stories is often hidden and depends on the context. Third, even though euphemism has been studied a lot, the classification of euphemistic expression in short stories collections is still limited. Limitation and scope research problem. First, analysis on euphemism occurs in 9 selected short stories from Modern Short Story in English by Robert J. Dixson. Second, euphemism is limited on dialogue and narration that related with social context in each stories. Third, euphemism classification based on Allen and Burridge, 1991 at page 201. Next, formulation of research problem. How is euphemism used and interpreted in selected short stories from Modern Short Stories in English by Robert J. Dixson based on Allen and Burridge 1991 classification? And next topic, research questions. First, what type of euphemism are found in the selected short stories based on Allen and Burridge classification? Second, what is the most dominant type of euphemism used in selected stories? And last, how do euphemism expressions construct meaning and function within the context of the short stories? Next, Purposes of the research. First, to find out the types of euphemism found in the selected source stories based on Allen and Burridge classification. And second, to find out the most dominant type of euphemism used in the selected stories. And third, to find out how euphemism expression construct meaning and function within the context of the short stories. Significance of research. First, benefit. First, theoretical benefit. Next, significance of research. First, theoretical benefit. Theoretically, this research is expected to contribute to linguistic studies, especially in the field of pragmatics, by providing a better understanding of euphemism used in English short stories. Second, practical benefit. Practically, this research is expected to help students and readers understand the use of euphemism in English short stories and serve as a reference for future researchers. Next, definition of key terms. First, euphemism. Euphemism is a mild or indirect expression used to replace words or phrases that are considered harsh, offensive, or taboo. Second, short story. A short story is a brief work of fiction that usually focuses on a single event, character, or theme. Third, descriptive analysis. Descriptive analysis is a research method used to describe and analyze data without manipulating it. In this research, descriptive analysis is used to identify and explain the type of euphemism found in selected short stories. Next, review of related literature. First, pragmatic. Pragmatics is a study solely focused on the meaning in the context of what speaker means and listener infers from utterance. Yule 1996, page 3. Scope of pragmatic. First, pragmatic is a field of study that centers on speaker meaning. Second, pragmatics is referred to the branch of linguistics that investigates contextual meaning. Third, pragmatic is study about how meaning is conveyed more than what speakers say. And last, pragmatic is study about on how relative distance is expressed. Next topic, speak act. Speak act is an action done through utterance, where there is a connection between the sentence meaning and the action done in particular context. Shirley, 1969, page 18. Category of the category of speak act are first, locutionary act. Locutionary act is the act of producing a meaningful utterance or sentence in communication. Second, elocutionary act. Elocutionary act is the speaker intention or purpose behind the utterance, such as requesting, promising, or informing. And last, perlocutionary act. Perlocutionary act is effect or impact of the speaker's utterance on listener, such as persuading, convincing, or frightening. Next, taboo. Taboo is one of the interesting characteristic of language where a part or nearly all of its vocabulary has to be replaced by special avoidance lexical item. Huang 2007, page 164. And last, euphemism. Euphemism is word or phrase that replace the offensive expression so it can protect the voice of both speaker and listener. Allen and Burridge, 1991, page 202. Classification of euphemism, there are figurative expression. Figurative expression is using metaphors, or symbols, like saying someone is social lion instead of very popular. Second, circumlocution, using many words to say something simple to soften the impact. And third, omission, leaving out words but still implying the meaning, like love goes, to talk about a breakup. And last, hyperbole, using exaggeration to soften a harsh reality. By Alan and Burrich, 1991, page 99. Next, review of relevant studies. First, Shirley, Hamza, and Wahyuni 2022 with the title Analysis of Euphemism in Crimes and Politics News of Postmetro Padang. The main findings is metaphor is the most dominant type. Journalists prefer indirect words to soften sensitive topics. Next, researchers, Jiwat 2024, with the title An Analysis of Euphemism in the Selected Literary Texts by Othello. The main findings, 4 types identified. First, diplomacy, 33.33%, litotes, 33.33%, politeness, 16.67%, and spin, 16.67%. Diplomacy and litotes most frequent. Next, Swadi 2021. Functions of Euphemism in Putu Wijaya's short stories Guru. The recital of his research. The main finding, politeness 80%, most dominant. Others include diplomacy 30% and secrecy 6%. Euphemism helps maintain social harmony. And then Marigan and Marpo, 2023, the use of euphemisms in the Book of the Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. The main findings, 4 kinds identified, most frequent 44.5% are euphemism, making situations sound more pleasant. And next, Chandra et al., 2022, with the title Euphemism Expressed by the Characters of Shakespeare in Love Movie Scripts. The main findings is 6 types found. Implication most frequent. Functions analyzed with Burrich show protective euphemism as most dominant. Next, Said and Jamil 2025 with title A Stylistic Analysis of Feminist Euphemisms in Selected English Novels, a comparative study. The main findings is the study compares feminist euphemisms in To the Lighthouse and Emma. Euphemisms reveal how each author stylistically addresses feminist themes and reflects broader narrative goals. And then Kulibayevic and Kizi 2024 with the title The Use of Euphemism in English and Uzbek Literary Works. The main findings, the study find euphemisms frequently used in themes such as death, illness, and social status, showing their role in expressing cultural and literary nuance across languages. Next, Linga and Rankuti 2021 with the title The Analysis Euphemism Meaning in Different Genre Texts. The main findings, there are 8 types of euphemisms were identified across fiction and non-fiction texts, including compounding, implication, metonymy, and hyperbole, with implication and particularization most frequent. Next, Revita et al. 2025 with the title Semantic Analysis in Story Diwa Night, Euphemism and Dysphemism. The main findings are euphemism is dominantly used in Hikayat Malam Diwa to maintain politeness. soften harsh realities and convey cultural and emotional meanings in a subtle way. And last, Wijana Enuga 2025 with the title Euphemistic Representation of Death in Armed Criminal Group Eradication Discourse in West Papua. The main findings is the study finds euphemism for death in YouTube narrations appear as words, phrases, and clauses mainly motivated by communicative strategies influenced by power imbalance in conflict discourse. Next, conceptual framework. This research is based on study of pragmatics, which examines how meanings is conveyed in communication. Within pragmatics, the study focused on speech act to understand how speakers express their intention through language. In communication, some topics are considered taboo because they may be sensitive or socially restricted. To avoid direct or offensive expressions, speakers often use euphemism. This research analyzed euphemistic expression found in selected sources from modern sources in English collection revised by Robert J. Dixson. The analysis focused on identifying the types of euphemism used in the stories, which are figurative expression, circumlocution, omission, and hyperbole. Next, research method. Type of research. This type of research is descriptive qualitative method combined with content analysis to investigate the use of euphemism in selected source stories from modern source stories in English by Robert J. Dixson. And then next, data and source of data. The data in this research consists of words, phrases, and sentences that contains euphemistic expression. These expressions were identified within the source stories through their implicit or softened reference to taboo or sensitive subjects. Source of data. The source of data in the book Modern Source Stories in English collection revised by Robert J. Dixson, 1971, which featured simplified literary text from well-known authors. The instrument of the research. This is the fourth category. There is figurative expression. The definition is using metaphorical or idiomatic expression to refer indirect to taboo topics. Indicators contains imagery comparison or symbolic language replacing harsh terms. For example, pass away for die. Second, circumlocution. The definition using roundabout or indirect phrases to avoid direct mention. The indicators a longer descriptive phrase replace a single or direct word. For example, he's not with us anymore for he's dead. Third, omission. The definition avoiding direct mention by leaving out specific terms, relying on implication. The indicators, keywords are missing or intentionally left blank. Listener inverse meaning from context. For example, he did that thing. And last, hyperbole. The definition using exaggerated terms to shift attention from unpleasant truths. The indicator extreme or inflated language used to disguise negative or sensitive meanings. For example, he's larger than life or he's obese. And then validation strategy. To ensure the reliability and credibility of the data, several validation strategies were applied in the study. First, peer checking. Fellow researchers with a linguistic background reviewed the coding and classification of euphemistic expression based on Allen and Burridge 1991. And second, data triangulation. The findings were compared with previous Euphemism studies such as Zubaida and Marpong 2024 to strengthen validity. And last, researcher reflexibility. Researcher reflexivity. Analytical notes were maintained to document categorization decisions and minimize subjective bias during analysis. Technique of data collection. Researcher will collect the data by using documentary analysis, which involves examining written materials to extract relevant data. And last, technique of data analysis. First, data condensation. In this step, the researcher selected for use and simplified the textual data that contain euphemistic expression. And second, data display. The selected data were then organized into a table to display the types, percentage, and how utterance construct meaning of euphemism. This step will answer research question 1, 2, and 3. And last, conclusion drawing and verification. The researcher interprets the data based on context, meaning, and function of each euphemistic expression, then verified by rereading the source stories and checking whether the classifications and interpretation were consistent and grounded in the data. Thank you for your attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.